For him, I'm doing a lot more traditional. We've switched up a little bit about what we're doing with our homeschooling to teach them to find a love for what it is that they want to learn. All right, guys, so I told you that I was kind of reassessing what I was doing educationally wise for the kids. More so what I've been trying to do is make school more interesting for them. Get them away from the computer, get them more into books. Not that I don't want them to be on the computer, because we're very much a technology-oriented family. As a matter of fact, Braxen right now is at a class for his school day. He went to our local library because they were giving a free class on how to use Excel. So really cool, he was able to get a computer program in today, or computer programming class in today. I guess, I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's been a long day. I've done a lot of research. We had a full school day, but I'm trying a different approach with homeschooling. So there are a lot of things that I try to fit in a day, and not every kid is into the same thing at the same time. So a lot of the struggle that I was coming across is I was trying to teach history and science combined, and at the same time some things were more interesting to the kids than others. And I know they can't be interested in everything that they learn all the time, but I really feel that the best way that they learn is to find things that they're interested in. So what I did was I asked the kids, if you could pick what you were going to learn about, what kind of animals would you learn about? Or what kind of science do you want to learn? Those kind of things. So Ireland picked turtles, so we did science on turtles today. We're going to do some mathematics having to deal with turtles tomorrow based on measurements. And I'm not getting away from their core curriculum. Like, obviously they need to learn how to spell, they need to learn proper English usage, stuff like that. But for history and science, I really wanted to make it come alive and interesting for them, and that's what I've been researching and trying to do. So I think we're going to use a different technique when it comes to math, to spelling, to things like that. I actually think I want to get more in depth into workbooks for them and just work through levels to make sure they're where they need to be, and working through and getting them where they need to be. And it's something they can do all summer. So that's kind of my goal, is to encourage a lifelong love of learning in the kids and encourage them to pick up a book and learn things out of it because they can and because they want to. So that's kind of what I was wanting to gear our curriculum around. And every time I looked at devised curriculums, they didn't quite fall into that aspect that I wanted to do. And I started watching, I know there's a lot of people out there that do like unschooling and stuff, and I didn't really want to do unschooling, but I liked the concept of self-led learning. So, but still with core curriculums in there. And I know that everybody does theirs different, and the kids get core curriculums and stuff like that depending on what they're doing, but I really wanted to look at what it was that the kids wanted to learn and still put a basis of a scheduled curriculum for them in there, and have them know that there's a time that we sit down and we get our work done and we do our school, but at the same time put so many things in there that they're enjoying learning about, that they really gain a love for the sciences and arts and history and music and writing and all those things. So T, one of the things she picked for her science is and history right now, is she is studying the science and history of burials. And so she's going to do a full report on it for me. She's going to create a book of all the interesting points she learned. And from there, we'll probably grasp some more concepts and look up some more things that she'll want to learn more in depth. So I just kind of wanted to sit down and tell you guys about that a little bit, and I'll show you a little bit of some of the curriculum I put together. This is it's not an in-depth curriculum that we're doing, but it's some of the things that I brought out for the kids. One of them I already returned today, and Ireland said she wanted to learn about turtles. So we picked up a book from the Smithsonian, which was really cool. Or no, that was the T-Rex book. No, I think this was a Smithsonian book as well. And it was, what is the difference between a tortoise and a turtle? And both of us learned lots of interesting facts today. And it's also going to play into math and measurements, because we're going to actually look at and measure out, have her measure out and learn to do the measuring to see how big the biggest turtle is and how big the smallest one is. So kind of cool. So I'm kind of excited to show you guys a little bit of the curriculum that the kids are working on that they've picked out and designed to learn from. Okay, so I kind of thought I'd show you a little bit about what we're doing with our curriculum and how it's completely changing for us. So I really like the idea of kids learning through reading. It's how I learn a lot of things. As a matter of fact, I read for pleasure, but I also read to learn. And today when I was at the library, I picked up some reading for Mom because I said my goal as a writer is to read more, to make time to read more. And I found that there's points in the day where I'll sit down and I'll take a break from what I'm doing. And that's a perfect opportunity for me to read even just a few pages. I was actually able to get through this much of a book today in just a little bit of time of sitting down. And for me, that was a success in reaching my goals. I was excited about it. I ended up picking up at our library today a book called Real Life Homeschooling, and this is by Rhonda Barfield. So this is stories of 21 families who teach their children at home. And so they're from all different backgrounds. They have all different ways of teaching. And I really like the idea of looking at other parents' concepts of how they've found ways to make homeschooling really work for them, because I can always get different ideas to help just enrich my kids' education. So there's some things that I want my kids to learn core, and that would be, obviously I want them to learn history, I want them to learn science, I want them to learn English, grammar, usage, mechanics, all that stuff. Foreign language, if it's something that they're really interested in. As a matter of fact, I encourage foreign language. One of the things that I want them to learn besides foreign language and stuff is obviously handwriting, stuff like that, spelling, music, art. And then I want them to delve into the history of those things. So I really want them to have a well-rounded education. And I want to be able to provide that for them. So some of the things that we're doing mathematics-wise is to stick to traditional math, but take our time at doing it. If they're not grasping a concept, then try to find all different ways to teach them to learn until they grasp the concept. Because I know for me, math was not my strong suit throughout my school career until I reached the college level and I had a teacher that was able to speak my language, and I was like, why was this so hard for me? Why couldn't somebody teach me that way a long time ago? And I would have grasped it so easily. And I aced mathematics through college. Algebra I found simple, because I had a teacher that just spoke my language. So that's what I'm trying to find for my kids, is being able to speak their language and help them find that love for self-learning, to be able to take them places they want to go. So if they don't know how to do something, how to get down and actually learn how to do it, how to research it, how to figure it out. I think it's a really, really important life skill for them to learn. Because there's so many things we can say we want to be when we grow up, but if we don't learn how to do that, how are we ever going to accomplish that dream? You guys know I'm all about dream chasing. It's a huge deal for me. One day I decided to sit down and write a novel, and sit down and try to find a way to get that published and to go out there and to make a dream that I'd had from a very young age come true. And I did that, and it's because I had that motivation to learn. And so that's what I want to give to my kids in their homeschooling education. I get asked a lot why we homeschool, and that's part of the reason. I want to give my kids the freedom to be able to find that love for what they want to do. And not saying that kids can't get that in a regular school setting, because they can. All kids are individuals. They all learn different ways. I just prefer to provide that for them myself. So that's one of the reasons that we homeschool. So I'm taking a combination of some of the things I've learned about homeschooling in the years of research that I've been doing it, and unschooling, which for me, unschooling was a term that I really shied away from. I didn't understand anything about it. And the more I've researched it and the more I've watched things on it, and not just from people that unschool, who really are the experts in unschooling, but from experts themselves that have done studies on unschooling, and from articles that have been written through PBS and through professors in college, and the pros and cons of unschooling and where mistakes can be made and where success stories happen. And so when I started to learn and get a grasp on what unschooling was it's really not much different than homeschooling. It's really just a matter of how, at least in my book, this is how I see it, of choosing how you want to educate your child and going with that and letting it be a child-led teaching. Not saying that I'm letting my kids run their school day, because that's so far from the truth, but I'm letting them tell me about the things they're really interested in learning about and then designing a curriculum around what they're interested in. Zane is interested in dinosaurs. Ireland is interested in turtles and princesses and unicorns and lots of very girly things. She wants to learn about royalty and princesses. So it's a great opportunity to teach her history of the era of princesses and even some of our modern day monarchy that's out there. So it's a really good way to teach her that social history and find some living books, some books that really, between fiction and nonfiction, like historical fiction, that'll really bring that to life for her, and to find programs and really bring her into that history learning. Now, when I say that, there's also books that I'm selecting to teach them, things that I want them to know about. I know Braxen is huge into the sciences. He loves computers. He's fascinated by anything technology. But I also know that there's some great people and some great minds from history way before we had computers, such as Da Vinci, that I know if Braxen learned the history on, he would be very excited to learn it. And I think he'd find a lot of things he'd have numerous questions about, and it'll open up more worlds, but it's still following along what Braxen truly loves, and that has to do with technology. He's a very technology-based kid. So they have a great biography at our library on Da Vinci. So that's the next on our school list, is to bring that home, and we're going to go over Da Vinci's biography and learn a lot about him, which will bring us into art history and all sorts of subjects that we can cover learning about Da Vinci. So I want to make it a year-round program for the kids, so that they're finding a love for learning so much that even during the summer they're learning, and during the fall and the spring and the winter, and it's not something that I have to struggle with them about. I'm sure there'll be days that I have to struggle still with them to get them to learn. But at the same time, especially when it comes down to the traditional schooling that I want to do with them, like sitting down and doing math workbooks and practicing our handwriting and some of that stuff that they need to learn. But taking that at a pace that they're ready for at the same time. So somewhat traditional when it comes to a school or homeschool setting, but at the same time, a self-paced learning. And so I'm looking for workbooks and stuff like that I think will interest each child in the subject they need to be learning and take them through the levels they need to learn. So that's kind of how we're revamping our homeschool program for our kids. It's sort of a combination of unschooling and homeschooling, but I wouldn't even say it's unschooling. I'd say it's our version of it, or our version of homeschool. So I'm going to show you some of the stuff we have on the curriculum this year. While Zane is hugely into the subject of dinosaurs, I picked up several books for him. So this one is a Smithsonian book, and I let him pick a dinosaur. And so we went with Tyrannosaurus Rex. So we're learning all the facts about Tyrannosaurus Rex. We're learning where the Tyrannosaurus Rex was. Some of the things we're going to be researching are the Cretaceous period and the Mesozoic era. We're going to be learning all about what went on when the Tyrannosaurus Rex was there. So this is one of our books on our reading list during this period. And I should say this year, because I'm sure as we're learning, he's going to want to explore more things to do with it. And then this was a book I had in our home library called The Dinosaur Encyclopedia. So this literally has facts about every single dinosaur that there was. So we're taking this small chunks at a time, and each day we're sitting down, and we're going to also take our art program and put our art program as part of this, where he's putting together, learning how to draw these things and working on putting in detail and stuff like that, maybe making dinosaur sculptures, really getting into the dinosaur era. We're going to learn everything about it. And then future reading, this was also in our personal home library, fossils tell of long ago, so we're going to study about fossils. I want to do some hands-on science projects that have to do with that time. So that's going to take a little bit of researching for me because I really want them to get the hands-on. The other thing on our reading list is going to be duckbills and boneheads. And then cold facts about the Ice Age. So we're going to learn all kinds of things also about the Ice Age too, and where how the dinosaurs became extinct, and learn about and take into the science of that as well. You know, what are the different theories on how the dinosaurs became extinct, and then start researching that on the science side. So it'll lead into all different levels. And I know when I have been looking at like the traditional schooling programs and stuff like that, everything's taken in chunks and eras. So I think we're doing the same thing. We're just doing it according to what each child's interested in at that point in time and what era they're in their lives. And then the other thing is for our English class, myths are something that are always covered in school in different grade levels. You see them in high school, you see them in junior high, you see them in grade school. And Zane was really into reading about Pandora's box and stuff. It was a big deal for him. He really liked those stories. So when I went to our local library, I picked up a collection of Greek myths. So this is what we're working on for our English program right now, is learning some Greek myths and the history behind that, which will probably take us into some exploration on ancient Greece for future history. For Ireland, like I said, she was really into princesses and turtles. She wants to learn about horses. She had a whole list of animals, so I think we're probably going to be doing a lot of zoology this year, which is exciting for me because I love doing that stuff. And I think it'll lead to some really fun art projects. And even in a music appreciation class, because she asked to do a unit on birds. So that's going to lead into all the kinds of things that we can do. And come the spring, I think I'm going to save it a little bit more for the spring, because I'd like to take and have her learn how to make a homemade bird feeder, and maybe do some nature walks, do some photography, learn about different birds, research local birds from our area, and have her learn about those. So I think that could be a really fun unit to teach her. And as you know, Ireland's really been working on her reading, and she's made a lot of progress. So what I decided to do was to go to the library and get some step books and pick up things that she was interested in. So we're doing some step into reading books, and I picked out for her, she said anything princess, so I picked out this Beauty and the Beast book. Now what I liked about this book is it is very simple reading. It's got a lot of the words and things she's been learning on. It introduced her to some newer, harder words, and she started reading through this like a pro today. So we're gonna go through this several times, really make sure that she's learned those words before we move on to the next book. So for each of the kids, I have them having reading done. If they're younger, I'm doing reading with them. Even some of the older kids, I'm doing reading with them. We're doing reading time together, and it's usually just a chapter a day, but I want them reading books just for pleasure as well. So Ireland is really into unicorns, and this was in our personal library. We're reading Unicorns of Balinor, and I didn't realize this was actually a series. I know that there's 2 for sure out, and I don't know since the printing if the 3rd one's come out, but this is a series of books called, this one's called The Road to Balinor. So we started this today, and she was really into this. It has princesses, it has unicorns, it has this fantasy made-up world. Each of the kids have a reading for pleasure book that they're working on. So Tearlyn's was Lemony Snicket's, and she just finished that. Now I gave her an assigned reading because I'm trying to keep some of the older kids, I let them pick what they want to do, but I also want them to get some of those classics under their belt. And she has a book that she got for her birthday, A Clockwork Orange. So that's actually what she's working on. And as she's reading it, she's putting together a visual book report for me to let me know what she enjoyed out of the book and things that really stood out to her, any life lessons she learned in the book. But that's what I'm trying to get the kids to do, is to really get into reading some books. But also for the older kids, I want them to experience those classics. For Ireland, for our English course for her, like I did with Zane, he has the Greek myths. He has yet to pick out his independent read book. I'm going to take him to the library and let him kind of look at all the books and decide what he wants to do. But since Ireland said anything princess, for her English courses right now, we are reading World's Greatest Fairy Tales. This one is all the classic fairy tales. It's got The Ugly Duckling. I think that there's a second volume of this too, so we're gonna go over these for her English courses right now. And you know, I didn't realize I've never read her the story of The Ugly Duckling, and she really enjoyed it. And it's the more in-depth version for it, so it's closer to what her reading level should be at. It's your fun reading. She's going to be working on this book, Sharing and Caring. So she's also learning some life lessons, and it's got some of her favorite Disney princesses in it. This is going to be after we're done with Unicorns of Balinor. We're going to be reading the book Fairest, which is another fairy tale. This is from the author of Ella Enchanted. And then some of our other reading that we'll be doing for class is Knights in Shining Armor. So we're going to learn a little bit of the history about knights. And then I have a Learn to Read book for her that is I'm a Princess. So this is another easy to read book. It takes her through the steps. We've got her on a certain level, and really get her into that love for reading. Now, they only had 2 princess editions at our local library, so we'll probably move into some that aren't princess, but I really wanted to get her into getting into this reading part of it. I think probably by school time next year, Ireland should have a really good grasp on reading to where she loves to read, she wants to read, and I can't wait to see what can happen for her when she's grasped the concepts of reading. But Braxen, for his independent reading, he picked up drama. So I had to go get I had to go get a bite of Matt's burger because he made bacon cheeseburgers and I said I was gonna have leftovers. I'm really regretting that decision, you guys. Anyway, so for Braxen's assigned classic reading, I let him choose from several titles and he picked Treasure Island. So this was one that we had in our personal home library. And then we're also going to study Buddy, the First Seeing Eye Dog, for a little bit of history and just for some social science, stuff like that. I had Braxen pick a science topic, and he could pick anything from biology to zoology to anatomy. I just wanted him to find a topic that he'd be really into learning. So for science right now, he picked bionics. I said I wanted him to learn some history, and he saw this book and he was really excited about it, The Oregon Trail. So, this is actually an interactive history adventure. It's like, if you guys remember the Choose Your Own Adventures, or you know what those are, it's 3 story paths, 38 choices, and 17 endings. So he's gonna read through this for fun. And then we picked up Westward on the Oregon Trail. So this is, it's called American Heritage Junior Library, and they have a whole series of different history things. So I'm pretty excited to see how this is and to see if this is something really entertaining for him, because I'd like to bring the history to life for them. And then Braxen has really been wanting to learn Spanish, and I had said we were gonna kind of put that off until I found this series at our library that has Russian, Chinese, Japanese, there's all kinds of languages, and it's first 1,000 words in Spanish. So I thought this would be a really good introduction for him to the Spanish language. And then as he starts to learn this, he can move on to some of the more in-depth programs if he decides that this is a language that he wants to learn. And then when that point in time comes, then investing into a language program for him will be the right move. But I want to make sure it's a language he's really going to like. I know Skylur is learning Japanese, and so I'm also going to pick him up the Japanese version of this to help him along with his in-depth studies that he's doing on Japanese. Along with some of the traditional math and reading that we're doing, I have 2 books that I picked up for Ireland and Zane, just to kind of bring math and language to life for them a little bit more. I thought by reading a story that would help somewhat, especially when they're struggling. So I found a series. This one is What is Money? This is the one I picked up for their math class. And this will go hand in hand with some of the math that they're going to be learning, but there's all kinds of things like talking about spending money, saving money. It's just a whole series on money. Then they have a series on division and addition and subtraction. So I thought this would be a really great additional tool to kind of help bring math to life for them. And then this is a cool series of books. So this one is on verbs. It's called To Root, to Toot, to Parachute. What is a verb? And it's set up like a poem to teach them what verbs are, and it has adverbs, conjugations, all those things that a lot of times are really, really hard to grasp for kids. So I thought that was a cool series. That's something that they'll do together in their learning. And then for T and Braxen, I also wanted to bring in like health class, a little bit more in depth, geared toward a higher learning level, and of course music. So I thought any books we could find on that would be good, in addition to a regular music class. But for health, we found a whole series on junior drug awareness. So we're going to be learning about steroids and teaching them a little bit about that in their health class so they can learn the effects on the body, stuff like that, side effects from the drugs. So they have a whole series in this junior drug awareness series that's every different type of drug and the effects on the body. And Tearlyn and Braxen are both really fascinated. Tearlyn got her guitar not that long ago. If you guys haven't seen that vlog, I think it's called She Got Her First Guitar. And Braxen's been fascinated with the guitar. So I picked up the book, Is the Guitar Right for You? Or Is the Guitar for You? So, and this isn't that I want to like steer them away from that love about it, but I thought they could learn a little bit about guitars, a little bit about learning music with guitars, just another step in a music program for them. So this is just a little bit of how we've changed up our school curriculum. This is not our entire curriculum and how it's going to work. But these are just little steps in it. And so I know I share my day with you guys a lot, teaching them. Now for Aspen, I'm doing a traditional preschool for him, although I think a lot more hands-on. We do a lot of crafts and stuff, but I want to get him into like learning some science hands-on and stuff like that. We'll be doing lots of science experiments, so I think he'll have a good time getting to do those with us. And different ways to teach him his ABCs and his 1, 2, 3s and all that basic stuff he needs to learn before he even starts the reading process, getting that sound awareness, that phonetic awareness out there for him. So for him, I'm doing a lot more traditional preschool style, but for the older kids, we've switched up a little bit about what we're doing with our homeschooling, and I think that it's going to be a much broader spectrum for them and more geared to who they are as individuals, to teach them to find a love for what it is that they want to learn. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you tomorrow in a vlog.